The silence of the municipal theater was broken when Marina Oliveira stepped onto the stage for the first time in 15 years, her voice trembling on the first notes of Ave Maria as tears streamed down the faces of 200 people who, minutes before, had dismissed her as a mere cleaner. 3 hours earlier, Marina was pushing the cleaning cart through the corridors of the San Carlos Municipal Theater, her worn shoes creaking against the marble floor she knew every inch of. The smell of chemicals clung to her clothes like a second skin, and the weight of 17 years working in that place seemed heavier each day. At 42, she had become invisible, just another woman in a blue uniform who entered and exited the dressing rooms without anyone noticing her face. "Marina, you forgot to clean the third-floor bathroom yesterday," said Marcia, with that sharp voice she reserved for employees she considered disposable. "I cannot accept this kind of carelessness. Tonight is the new talent competition, and everything needs to be perfect." Marina lowered her eyes, her rough hands clutching the handle of the bucket. "Sorry, Marcia, I was feeling a bit, I'll take care of it now." The conversation ended there, with Marina inventing an excuse to leave the room. How could she explain to her daughter that she had been a coward, that she had given up so easily? That every night, as she walked through the theater corridors, she heard the echoes of her own young, hopeful voice. Marina was cleaning the bathroom mirrors when she heard the first voices approaching. The new talent competition was about to begin, and the contestants were arriving for final preparations. She tried to become even more invisible, lowering her head and concentrating on her task. "I can't believe I'm here," said a young, anxious voice. "I never thought I'd pass the first stage." "Relax, Carol," replied another voice, more confident. "You have talent, you just need to believe in yourself." Marina recognized the second voice. It was Helen Mendez, a local singer who had gained some regional fame and was now part of the competition jury. Helen was known for her direct opinions and for having no patience with mediocrity. "Easy for you to say," Carol murmured. "You don't know what it's like to be 23 and feel like you've already missed all opportunities." Marina paused cleaning for a moment, her heart racing. 23? Carol thought it was too late at 23. "Nonsense," Helen said firmly. "I've known singers who started their careers at 40, 50. The important thing isn't when you start, it's having the courage to start." The voices faded, but Helen's words echoed in Marina's mind. Courage to start. When was the last time she had courage for anything? Marina finished cleaning the bathroom and went down to the first floor, where the theater was starting to fill up. She observed from afar the contestants preparing, some nervous, others confident, all united by the same flame she had felt years ago. The nostalgia was almost physical, like a hand squeezing her chest. "Marina," Marcia's voice cut through her thoughts, "go to the dressing rooms. Some contestants spilled makeup on the floor." Marina went up again, this time to the dressing rooms on the second floor. The corridor was busy, full of young talents vocalizing and preparing for the big moment. She entered dressing room number 3, where she indeed found a spilled foundation bottle on the floor. As she cleaned, Marina couldn't help but overhear the conversation of the two girls applying makeup in the mirror. "I'm terrified," said one of them, her voice trembling. "What if I forget the lyrics?" "You won't forget," her friend replied. "How many times have we sung this song together?" "About 1,000, the first one laughed, still nervous. "But it's different when so many people are watching." Marina smiled involuntarily. She remembered that feeling, the butterflies in her stomach, the sweaty hands, the certainty that everything would go wrong. "Sorry," the nervous girl said, noticing Marina for the first time. "We made a mess here." "Don't worry," Marina replied gently. "It happens." "Have you worked here long?" the other girl asked, curious. 17 years, Marina said, continuing to clean. "Wow, so you must have seen a lot of famous people pass through here." Marina nodded. "Some." "Any advice for someone who's terrified?" the first one asked with a shy smile. Marina stopped cleaning and looked at the two young women. She saw in their eyes the same passion she had felt, the same determination mixed with insecurity. Remember why you started singing. Don't sing to impress the jury or the audience. Sing because the music lives inside you and needs to come out. The girls exchanged a surprised look. "You sing?" one of them asked. Marina hesitated. "I used to, a long time ago." "What happened?" "Life happened," Marina replied with a sad smile. "But don't let that happen to you. Fight for your dreams." Marina finished cleaning and left the dressing room, but the words she had just spoken echoed in her mind. Fight for dreams. When was the last time she had fought for anything? The competition began at 8 o'clock, and Marina positioned herself at the back of the theater, discreetly observing while pretending to organize cleaning supplies. One by one, the contestants took the stage, some clearly nervous, others radiating confidence. There were beautiful voices, some impressive techniques, but Marina noticed that something was missing from most of the performances: the true emotional connection between the singer and the music. When Carol, the girl she had heard in the bathroom, stepped onto the stage, Marina held her breath. The young woman chose Amazing Grace, a song Marina knew well. But as Carol sang, Marina could hear the tension in her voice, the fear that prevented her from fully giving herself to the music. "She needs to relax," Marina murmured to herself, as if she could transmit calm energy to the young woman on stage. Carol's performance ended with polite applause, but Marina could see the disappointment on the girl's face. She knew Carol had much more to offer than she had shown. The competition continued, and Marina found herself increasingly emotionally involved. Each performance took her back to her own student days, when music was all that mattered. She remembered her singing teacher, Miss Eulalia, a severe but kind woman who had seen potential in Marina from the first lesson. "You have a gift, girl," Miss Eulalia used to say, "but a gift without work is like a seed without water. You need to cultivate it. You need to take care of it." Marina had cultivated. She had practiced for hours, studied technique and interpretation, performed in recitals and competitions. Her voice had become her identity, her reason for being. And then, suddenly, everything had stopped. "Mom, are you okay?" Sophia had asked the week before, finding Marina standing in front of the living room mirror, lost in thought. "You look sad." "I'm fine, dear," Marina had lied, "just tired from work." But Sophia was perceptive. "You always get like this when musical movies are on TV. It's like you're missing something." Marina hadn't answered, but Sophia was right. She lived missing herself, the woman she had been, the music that had lived in her soul. The competition was drawing to a close when the unexpected happened. The last contestant, a young man of about 20, had just finished his performance of Nessun Dorma when the sound system began to fail. Strange noises echoed through the theater, and then total silence. "Technical difficulties," announced the presenter, trying to remain calm. "We'll take a short break to resolve the situation." Marina saw the frustration on the faces of the jury and the contestants. Some participants seemed relieved by the interruption, but others who had not yet performed were visibly anxious. "How long will it take?" Helen Mendez asked, addressing the sound technician. "At least an hour," the man replied, tinkering with cables and equipment. "The problem is with the main system." A murmur of disappointment spread through the theater. Marina saw Carol, the nervous girl, sitting in one of the front rows, her face in her hands. She had performed, but Marina knew the young woman was not satisfied with her performance. Other contestants talked in groups, some discussing whether they should leave. It was then that Marina heard Helen Mendez address the presenter. "Look, we can't let the event die like this. People traveled from afar. Some contestants have been preparing for months. We need to keep the energy alive." "But without sound," the presenter began. "Without a microphone," Helen corrected. "But this theater has magnificent acoustics. How about some of the contestants perform without amplification? Who knows, maybe that will bring a different energy. Marina felt her heart race. She knew every inch of that theater, knew exactly how the sound traveled through the room, where the points of greatest resonance were. She had spent years cleaning that stage, but she had also spent years listening to the echoes it produced. "Anyone volunteer?" Helen asked, looking at the contestants in the audience. There was an awkward silence. Singing without a microphone in a large theater required technique and confidence, two things most beginner contestants had not yet fully developed. "I'll try," a hesitant voice said. It was Carol, slowly standing up. I mean, if everyone agrees, I didn't do well the first time." Helen smiled. "Courage, that's what I want to see." Carol went onto the stage, but Marina could see she was even more nervous than before. Without a microphone, every imperfection would be amplified, every insecurity exposed. The young woman began to sing Amazing Grace again, but her voice came out small, lost in the large space of the theater. Marina moved closer, her heart breaking to see the frustration growing on Carol's face. The girl had talent, that was obvious, but fear was blocking a voice. Marina knew that feeling well. She had experienced it in her own student days. "More diaphragm support," Marina murmured involuntarily, forgetting where she was. "Excuse me?" said a voice behind her. Marina turned and saw one of the judges, a middle-aged man with glasses. "Did you say something about diaphragm?" Marina blushed. "Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything." No, the man said, curious. "You understand vocal technique?" "A little," Marina admitted, wanting to disappear. On stage, Carol interrupted the song, clearly frustrated. "It's not working," she said, her voice breaking. "Sorry, Wait," Helen said, standing up. "You there, the woman who talked about diaphragm, can you help?" Marina felt her blood run cold. All eyes in the theater turned to her, contestants, judges, spectators. She was wearing her cleaning uniform, her hands still rough from cleaning products, her hair tied in a simple ponytail. I don't," Marina stammered. "Please," Carol said from the stage, her eyes shining with tears of frustration. "You seem to know what you're talking about." Marina looked at the young woman on stage, saw the desperation in her eyes, and something inside her stirred. It was the same feeling she had when Sophia practiced piano at home and asked for help. The maternal instinct mixed with the love of music. "All right," Marina said, her voice low. I can try to help." She walked onto the stage with hesitant steps, aware that hundreds of eyes followed her. Carol greeted her with a grateful smile. "What's your name?" Carol asked. Marina replied, still not believing she was there. "Marina, I just can't make my voice reach the back of the room," Carol said, frustrated. "Without a microphone, it feels like I'm shouting into an empty space." Marina looked at the audience, then at Carol. Her mind automatically went back to her years of study, to her classes with Miss Eulalia, to the techniques she had learned and never forgotten. "You're trying to force your voice," Marina said gently. "When we sing in a large space, our tendency is to push the sound, but that only creates tension. You need to use the space to your advantage." Marina positioned Carol in the center of the stage, exactly where she knew the acoustics were best. "Here," she said. "Now, imagine your voice is a balloon filled with air. You don't throw the balloon with force, you let it float." Carol tried again, but there was still tension in her posture. "Can I show you?" Marina asked, surprising herself. Carol nodded eagerly. Marina took a deep breath, feeling the familiar butterflies that preceded every performance. She closed her eyes, found her center, and began to sing. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. The first note came out hesitantly, 15 years of silence weighing on her. But then, as if awakening from a long sleep, her voice found its way. The second phrase came out stronger, more confident. By the third, Marina was no longer on the stage of the municipal theater. She was back to herself, to the woman she had been, to the music that had always lived within her. That saved a wretch like me. Her voice filled the theater effortlessly, each note finding its perfect place in the room's acoustics. Marina wasn't shouting or forcing. She was simply letting the music flow through her, like a river finding its natural bed. She opened her eyes and saw that the theater was completely silent. Contestants, judges, spectators, all were motionless, absorbed in the music. Marina saw Helen Mendez in the front row, her mouth slightly open, her eyes wide. "Was blind, but now I see." When the last note faded into the air, the silence continued for a long moment. Marina looked at the audience, suddenly conscious of what she had just done. She had sung. After 15 years, she had sung again. And then the applause began. It wasn't polite applause like that which had accompanied the other performances. It was genuine, emotional applause that grew into an ovation. Marina saw people drying their eyes, saw contestants applauding fervently, saw judges rising from their seats. "My God," Carol murmured beside her, "you're incredible. Why aren't you competing?" Marina didn't know how to answer. She looked at the audience, still stunned by what had happened, when she saw a familiar figure hurrying into the theater. It was Sophia, still in her school uniform, her eyes wide. "Mom?" Sophia said, her voice filled with astonishment. "Mom, was that you singing?" Marina descended from the stage as if in a trance. Sophia ran to her, her eyes shining with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "I was walking down the street and heard a beautiful voice coming from the theater," Sophia said, still disbelieving. "I thought, what a wonderful voice. I never imagined it was you." Before Marina could answer, Helen Mendez approached. "Excuse me for interrupting," she said, "but I need to know who you are. That voice, where did you study?" "St. Cecilia Conservatory," Marina replied automatically. "I graduated in 2007. "Why aren't you singing professionally?" Helen asked, straight to the point. Marina looked at Sophia, then at Helen. How to explain 15 years of fear, insecurity, sacrifices? How to explain that she had convinced herself she wasn't good enough? Circumstances, Marina began, but the words were lost. "Mom," Sophia said, holding her hand, "you always told me it was important to fight for our dreams, that we shouldn't give up on music." Marina looked at her daughter, seeing in her the same passion she had felt at 25. "I didn't want you to make the same mistakes I did," she said, her voice choked. "What mistakes?" Sophia asked. "Mom, you just sang like an angel. That's not a mistake, it's a gift." Helen moved closer. "Look, I don't know your story, but I know talent when I see it. You have an extraordinary voice, and more importantly, you have soul. That cannot be taught." Marina felt tears burning her eyes. "I gave up a long time ago. I'm 42. I work as a cleaner." "So what?" Helen interrupted. "Do you think music has an expiration date? That there's an age to be genuine?" At that moment, Marina remembered the words she had heard Helen say earlier. The important thing isn't when you start, it's having the courage to start. Sophia squeezed her hand. "Mom, if you start singing again, maybe we can sing together. It's always been my biggest dream." Marina looked at her daughter, at Helen, at all the hopeful faces around her. For the first time in 15 years, she allowed herself to imagine a different life. A life where music was not just a painful memory, but a real possibility. I don't even know where to begin," Marina admitted. "You've already begun," Helen said, smiling. "You just sang on the stage of the Municipal Theater and brought tears to an entire audience. That's the beginning." Carol approached shyly. "Marina, thank you. You didn't just help me, you inspired me. Now I know how music should sound when it comes from the heart." Marina smiled through her tears. "You have a lot of talent, Carol. You just need to trust yourself." "You too," Carol said with a warm smile. And if you, watching this story, also have a hidden talent, a passion that has been set aside by the rush of life, don't let the years pass in vain. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and let's together discover more stories of people who found the courage to start anew. Because it's never too late to be who you always dreamed of being. 3 months later, Marina was backstage at the same theater, preparing for her first official performance as a soloist. She had left her cleaning job and was giving singing lessons in addition to preparing for a series of recitals. Sophia was in the front row, beaming with pride, alongside some of the competition contestants who were now her students. Nervous, Helen, who had become her mentor and friend, asked. Terrified, admitted, smiling, but also alive. For the first time in 15 years, I feel alive. That's the secret, Helen said. The fear never completely goes away, but when you sing for love, fear transforms into energy. Marina looked in the dressing room mirror, the same dressing room she had cleaned hundreds of times. But now she was there as an artist, as a woman who had found the courage to be herself again. Her hands were no longer rough from cleaning products, but soft from the creams Sophia insisted she used. Her hair was loose, framing a face that radiated new confidence. "Mom," Sophia said, appearing at the dressing room door. "It's time." Marina took a deep breath, hugged her daughter, and walked towards the stage. This time, there was no blue uniform or cleaning cart. There was just her voice, and the music that had always lived in her heart. When she stepped onto the stage and saw the packed audience, Marina felt like she had come home. Not just to the stage, but to herself. She had spent 15 years believing it was too late, that she had lost her chance, that she wasn't good enough. The first note came out clear and strong, filling the theater with an emotion that touched every person present. Marina was no longer singing to impress or to prove something. She was singing because music was part of her soul, because her voice was a gift she could no longer keep hidden. And when the last note faded into the air, followed by a deafening ovation, Marina knew that her true journey was just beginning. She had found not only her voice, but her courage, her identity, her purpose. In the front row, Sophia cried with emotion, applauding with all her might. In the dressing room, a bouquet of flowers waited with a card signed by Carol and the other contestants. "Thank you for teaching us that it's never too late to start anew." Marina smiled, bowed to the audience, and knew that she had finally come home. The home that had always been hers, in the heart of music and the certainty that every day is a new opportunity to be who we truly are.